your hardest workers in the rooms, they're the ones who get burnt out because that work still has to get done. The slack has to be picked up, right? So
And
yeah,
it's
that's
what we talked about in preaching the standards, but then tolerating the contradictory behavior to where your high performers see that. And it's like, well, why am I going above and beyond for this guy that lets other people get away with murder?
Leading Ain't Easy, the show that cuts through the noise and gets real about leadership. I'm Ryan Calkins, Marine Corps veteran and founder of Reframe and Rise, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow leader, Erny Epley, founder of Bus Pro Network, as we unpack the highs, lows, and hard-earned lessons of what it actually takes to lead with character in today's world. It's not another highlight reel or fluffy leadership pep talk. We're talking about the stuff most people don't, the doubt, the pressure, the people problems, the pivots, and the personal growth that it demands. Because the truth is, leadership looks good on paper, but in real life, leading ain't easy.
Hi, welcome back to Leading Ain't Easy. Today we wanted to talk about culture, and we had some people reach out and talk about leadership mistakes that people can make that really negatively impact culture. And what we mean by culture, obviously, is in the workplace. It's not, somebody coming out and giving speeches and everything else. It's the everyday activities that occur and what is truly happening in your environment. Like you've heard about the toxic workplace culture and what's a great culture, things like that. That's kind of what we want to talk about today, is things that leaders can do that intentionally or unintentionally kind of erode what a culture could be.
as we get into this, Ryan, I want to kind of set a standard, I guess, start a foundation with how much of the culture, the workplace environment is on the leader. Like, what percentage would you sort of arbitrarily throw at that?
Well, I mean, in my experience, leadership is, culture starts at the top, right? So when you
Yeah.
have a leader that comes out and says, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, but then they turn around and do the complete opposite, everybody underneath is like, well, if he or she's not going to do it, why the hell am I going to do it? So it's not just saying, oh, we have a positive culture, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's like you have to actually live what you're preaching, otherwise there's not going to be any respect for it.
And I think too is if it's something that is truly on my shoulders, then I got to take it on as a leader and face the music when it's not great and when it is great. Just like I wanted to take credit for whenever we're firing on all cylinders and we're getting at it. When it's not so good, I got to take responsibility. And if that means me going in and being shoulder to shoulder with those folks while we're doing our work and really getting a vibe for, okay, where is it wrong, right? Because that's the only way I know how to lead or know how to even gauge where we're at culturally. And moment of a little bit of transparency here, man, that's tough because I have a list of things to do. I have a to-do list that's a mile long, but if I want this to improve, the only way I know how to do it is get there in the weeds right with them to take the temperature and really see where it's at. And then kind of taking that, reflecting and seeing like, okay, how do I input something here? Where do I fix this? How does this get resolved?
Well, yeah, it is, but it's also in being consistent and practicing what you preach, right? So
Yeah.
I worked for a consulting firm that had a big culture issue, and we went through an entire like organizational cultural transformation. And the biggest problem was it seemed like we had a ton of independent consultants that operated under this company banner rather than a team that worked together. Like you would have a project manager that would hoard everything. It's like, oh, that's my client, that's my client, this is my information. And being able to break away from that and start to trust each other with, yes, this is my client, but I'm going to recommend Ernie because he has this area of expertise rather than me trying to hoard it to prove, oh, I'm this big, mighty consultant. And being able to slowly shift the mindset and create the buy-in through practice was key to everything. But then again, like I mentioned, you also have CEOs or people in executive positions that are saying things as this culture is progressing that are undermining efforts. So you have a team that is slowly starting to come together, but it's also being undermined by the people that are supposed to be the face of this change, not necessarily following through with what they're prescribing for others, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Man, I as you were talking, I wanted to further dive into this with two very real world experiences that I've had coming up. And the first of which, if I had to assign a name, like this was the impossible situation. This was the department that I stepped into where the culture was in the proverbial toilet, man. It was tough. The morale was low. They had, oh man, I want to say up I was probably the fourth leader, manager, whatever,
Hmm.
in a year. So in 12 months, they've had four different faces, and one of them's this mug, uh, up there. It's the latest one, right? Of their own vision for the department, their own goals, their own their own initiatives. So being the fourth one in the 12-month span, I'm already 6 steps behind, right? And then on top of that, the senior leadership had changed in the last 3 years. They had something like 6 or 7, at the very top level.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of turmoil stepping into that, and that's why I kinda dubbed it the impossible situation. Like, how oof, man, how and I gotta say, like, this would probably be one of the areas that I look back on with in my personal career is I don't wanna assign failure to it because that I mean, but I more assign, learning experience for my own, I guess, peace of mind or whatever. But it's tough, man, because I stepped into that role already being 6 or 8 steps behind,
Hmm.
and then not having the support from senior management and leadership to really enact change. I think I've talked about it before on this podcast, where it was something that when the team that I was in front of trying to inspire change, trying to lift up the culture, it counteracted what their own goals were and their own aspirations were. Like, there was one of the team members wanted to be manager and they weren't. And when before preliminary conversations coming into this, I knew that individual. I knew them from the networking opportunities that I or networking events that I'd been part of. So coming into it, there was almost an expectation that, hey, for this to work, I'm going to need you on my, not necessarily on my side, but I'm going to need your help.
Hmm.
And when it became apparent that everything that this person was doing was all towards the goal of, oh, you're going to promote me, you're going to put me in this position, this supervisor position that's underneath you, right? That, and when it became that, oh, you're not qualified for this, like the objective truth was, you're all the moves you make are just for that position, and it's the rest of the team sees this, and it's not good for the culture. So then it became a situation where I thought you had my back, and then it became working against me within the department. So man, I just I don't know if there was anything that more I could have done looking back on that to fix that culture, to sort of to introduce new initiatives, to maybe not have that preliminary conversation or preliminary contact with that
Hmm.
person before stepping into the role. That's something I definitely picked up from that, because there wasn't a expectation. I've since learned to say, hey, I know you want me to come in over there and be, director or manager, but I gotta say, like, I'm very much, you earn it. No, nothing's given. If we go there and I agree that you're the person for whatever position that might be open, you know, really leading with a a not making promises. Not that I made promises before, but it was like, again, without getting into too much detail on it, that it just felt like there was that expectation when I got in there that this person was going to be a right hand man, and then when it wasn't, oh man, it just. I know I got a little bit, rabbit traily there, but it's just
No.
how if you find yourself in that position, what do you do? How do you fix that culture?
For me, what I've experienced in my own career and kind of what shaped me as a leader when it comes to performance is I've seen so many situations where managers or leadership or whatever get focused on performance, right? And they're
Mm.
driving the numbers and the bottom line and everything else, and everybody loves the bottom line. But when it comes at the expense of ignoring behaviors or things that people are doing to get there, I think it kind of exacerbates the problem with that culture. And it's something that I've been able to take myself, and it's like, okay, well, performance will come if everything else is in line, right? So I'm not going to ignore the fact that you can be a piece of shit manager that walks over everybody else. Yeah, you got your numbers, but it's like, okay, well, do I continue promoting Ernie because he hits his numbers, even though he's making life miserable for everybody else? Or do I focus on correcting behaviors, getting a tighter group that actually trust each other, and then letting performance happen? Because it will organically, everything will improve, not just that individual, but everything becomes easier in terms of culture and getting stuff done in an aligned way.
I building on that, the second part of the experience where I've come in with culture in mind is it's so funny because the impossible situation and scenario I presented before sort of happened earlier in the career and really prepared me for later steps in the career, later positions that I took on. And I came into a situation where the culture was great. Everybody loved the current leadership that was there, and it all seemed to be, fantastic on paper. I get there, and within 3 months, I start to see why leadership is so loved here. And it's one of those things where there was no accountability held for negative behavior or negative actions. The management in place was very much just coddled the staff, coddled the team, didn't hold folks accountable for poor performance, poor behavior, for anything really. The manager that was there was in the position for 5-7 years, and there wasn't a single write-up or any kind of disciplinary action on paper or documented. Now, it's not to say that our jobs as leaders is to get you know, uh, write-ups through the roof and everything. But you're going to tell me a department of darn near 100 people, you're not going to have any time where you've had to correct some behavior or something's went on that there was a documented conversation about this at the very least, much less any kind of progressive discipline or work improvement plan. Uh, Nothing in 5 years. You know what I mean? So there definitely was. So I came into it as a person that, like, I have to hold this accountable because
Mhm.
this is a safety issue. And that, again, learning from past mistakes, I came into it leading with saying, hey, everything we do here, every bit of tough conversations we have, whether they're documented or not, they're going to be led by safety and service, because in the transportation world, we're carrying the most precious cargo. What other industry do you know where parents, sight unseen, load them on this big old, 11-foot high, 40-foot bus with the driver that they don't know from a can of paint?
Yeah.
That's a very, very heavy responsibility that we should be taking seriously. And if there's any action on the driver's part that puts that child in danger, I have to hold that accountable, right? And so very much safety driven, very much service driven. If we're not on time for this field trip, we failed that class. We failed those kids. A lot of times these field trips are the one and only time that they get to go They fundraise all year for it, and we're late. Their trip is almost ruined because we decided what we have going on is more important than our job, right? And I'm getting into the weeds, but I'm saying that to make a point and build a foundation on what my goal is as a director, right? As somebody that has to hold this behavior accountable. So building a culture around that, that's where, to come full circle, is I want everybody to understand that what I'm saying is also backed in documentation and backed in action. That the only time I'm not going to write up somebody, I'm not going to get on somebody for disagreeing with me. That's not what I'm about. I'm only going to hold folks accountable for safety and service. That's it. Right. And I think it took a little bit of time, took a lot of time. It took about 3 years before all the, and it's funny that the pieces started to begin to move, started to shift, because there was a good core of people there. That said, hey, you know what? I can get behind that. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to make sure these kids are safe. And those folks were the ones who stayed. And then the ones who didn't, there was quite a bit of turnover. Probably about a dozen people moved on. And no hard feelings on my end. Hey, you, if you can't get on board with what I'm doing here, then I wish you well. I want you to go to a place where you're going to thrive. One of the common themes that kind of emerged through that transitional period, looking back on it, I remember saying more than once, is like, I'm more stubborn than you, I promise you. And this is going to be this way, because you have to lead with that intent. Because if this department, if I'm the face of it, this is on my shoulders, it has to be this way. And it's not Ernie's way. This is safety, service, right? That's the way. This is what we're leading with. This is what the culture is. And rebuilding that, using those tools that I learned from the impossible situation, from earlier mistakes, that really led to an easier transition. I say easier. It was still tough, man. It was 36 months. I look back on those 3 years now. I'm pretty separated from them. It was tough to stay consistent.
All change is tough, right? Because people fear change. But when we're looking at, you mentioned the accountability piece, and it all comes down to consistent communication, right? And standing behind what you're saying. So when you are holding people accountable, you know what you're holding them accountable to, right? And a lot of people, like you said, it's so much easier to ignore problems than it is to have those difficult conversations. And it's even harder when I was at a company where I was tasked with finding a new software program to implement and essentially change the way that the company operated its data, managed its data, stored its data, everything. And I was working directly with the senior VP, who was second in command of the entire company. And I was working with the VP, who was the most hands-on in that software, and going through, it's like she was sort of working with me, but then behind the scenes was saying, we're making a mistake, we shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. So she would go in front of the group and say, oh yeah, this is where the direction that we're headed, da, 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 and then completely turn around and undermine it. And I tried to get support from the senior VP saying, can you please help me here? Like, it's not going to work if there's dissension, like, at the top. And it was something that never fully moved. So that project ended up obviously failing because the support wasn't there like it needed to be. And it's just one of those instances where it's an environment that is allowed to exist that undermines all the efforts in communication. And I think one of the best tools that I found, what was it called? Crucial Conversations. It was a training program on crucial conversations, and it was how to set up meetings, approach meetings to come from somebody else's perspective, and to have those hard discussions, and to prepare for them in a way to where that no matter what you think in your head, it's not going to be as difficult as you think it is, right? So the conversation is going to be better, but it's all about the preparation and the practice, back and forth, and having those conversations that are so crucial to either changing or even maintaining a proper culture. Because once you go down that avenue of cutting corners or letting things go, everybody sees it. So if you play favorites or you have people that you don't discipline, or others that, you're just focusing on the wrong things and you think that nobody sees it, but everybody sees it.
100%, man. And building on that point is culturally speaking, within your department or within the team that you are chosen to lead, something that I've seen over the course of my career that is a real benchmark for what type of leader that individual is if everybody, by and large, if everybody loves them, that's a problem. If everyone hates them, that's a problem, right? The most effective leaders that I've come across in my careers, and something that I've tried to emulate from that, just again, I test if you're split somewhere, right? And depending on who you talk to, that's funny that I say this to folks who I know, like my sister just got hired on my place of employment, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Not in my department.
Well,
No,
to her.
she's not
No,
working
you
for me.
guys.
No, I'd fire her just so I could have that hold it over her at Christmas. Like, I remember that time I fired you. No.
Well, now I can't get you a present, so.
No, but it's a big district, right? She's completely on the other side of things. But I'd tell her, I was like, hey, sis, look, depending on who you talk to, they're gonna love me or they're gonna hate me. You're gonna get a lot of in between, and I think that the more I've talked to different, ran into different people across networking, not just here at my place of employment, but the most effective leaders I've seen have that dichotomy where people love them, people hate them, people everything in between. And what I found is that the most effective ones, and something I try and be is when people say like, hey, I talked to this person and they are not a fan of yours. And in I can't always share exactly this thought, but I will say it out loud because it's a little more vague and there's no names attached to this. I always say, look at that person's work ethic. If there's somebody who is constantly not here, right? They are constantly trying to cut corners and constantly just not doing their job, chances are they're not my biggest fans. Talk to the people who love me and who really work well with me, not necessarily love me, but work well with me. There's some people there that that's just a personality thing, right? That we don't always see eye to eye on everything, but our work relationship is fantastic. I can ask them to drive through a brick wall and they'll do it. So those people, those are the ones who are there every day, working hard, have a job to do, that sort of thing. So the
ones that dislike you are the ones that you're holding accountable.
Pretty much.
Because they'd be a huge fan of yours if you didn't say anything at all, right?
That's where it boils down to. And the folks that do have a fantastic working relationship, the reason why they like me is because they're not having to be overworked, because that's what one of the downfalls of letting these things fester and not approaching problems and not trying to hold the folks accountable. The downfall is your hardest workers in the rooms, they're the ones who get burnt out because that work still has to get done. The slack has to be picked up, right? So
that's what we talked about in preaching the standards, but then tolerating the contradictory behavior to where your high performers see that. It's like, well, why am I going above and beyond for this guy that lets other people get away with murder?
Yeah, exactly. So kind of going back to the culture thing and going back to giving our listeners some insight on what the very focus of this podcast is like, you're gonna run the gambit. Like, don't get into leadership if you want to be loved, because it's not a position where you're gonna be universally loved. You're gonna have to be the bad guy. We have a whole episode on that, right? Being the bad guy. Just be ready for it. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I just one other thing, kind of, I don't know if it was a tool, and I know a lot of people think that it's kind of lame, but it really works, and it's in meetings, like regular, consistent meetings that you have. The last two long phases of my career, the jobs that I've had in those regular meetings, I introduced an agenda item called Kudos, and it's just giving the floor to allow people to recognize other people for help that they provided them that week or something. So it could be something as simple as hey, I just wanted to recognize that Ernie helped me with this. I was having trouble with this math problem that obviously you're never going to do that, but I have trouble with this math problem and I just wanted to recognize Ernie. And it kind of goes around the room and we spend a few minutes, providing kudos, which at first it's a little awkward and people struggle with it, but as you get used to it, it's just I think taking that time to really appreciate people's efforts just provides so much value because I mean when you sit there and you do the not even the same thing. I mean a lot of people do the same thing every single day, but when you're just going through a grind over and over and over and everybody gets lost in the moment because everybody's working, right? You always have something to do when you're on the clock that it's a necessary thing to take time and recognize and thank people. Like even a simple thank you, goes a
Yeah.
long way. But
It's huge, and if I could interject real quick, I'm very glad you brought that up, Ryan, because that is something that we have had a similar thing. Again, full transparency, we've kind of gone away from it because it's just something that's kind of fell. But we did the same thing. Kudos and shout outs in all of our team meetings and check-ins, and it's something that I am made that mental note. We need to get back to that. So thanks for bringing that up
yeah,
because
of course.
it builds culture. It builds, hey John Flanagan, thank you for helping me spell that word because I suck at spelling, right? Or whatever, I'm just making it. I just want to shout
No,
out
I
John
get it.
again.
Well, no, also with you talk about team building and kudos bringing people together, but I think another thing that lends itself to strengthening culture is having kind of unified goals or a vision, so everybody is working towards the same thing, and how to support each other. Because when you don't have that,
Yeah,
people work in silos, or they kind of like cliques happen regardless. I mean, it's just a
sure.
normal way of life, but obviously you want to manage that so it doesn't become an issue at work. But if everybody knows the direction that you guys are headed, it's much easier to lend support and help each other out when you know what that destination is.
Shifting gears here a little bit, when we're talking about culture and when
Mhm.
we're talking about things that where the politically correct thing is lending support. I need to lend support here. The real sort of answer is it's screwed up and I need to unscrew it, right? Like
Mhm.
how to, that is and has been interpreted as micromanaging, right? So I think the what has been most successful for me, and it hasn't been, I'm not batting 1,000 here, but it definitely helps soften that blow, is leading with leading the conversation with, hey Nikhil, I know that your performance, these numbers aren't what we're used to seeing. First off, is everything going okay? Is like, are you all right? Are you feeling okay? Like honestly, and not just from a, hey, are you feeling okay because you really suck lately? No, like, do you have, is something going on? Do you need some PTO? Like, not that PTO is going to fix it, not offering PTO maybe because maybe that's counterproductive to what's going on, but maybe there is something going on there. Maybe there is a health episode. Maybe there is some mental issue that needs to be addressed on a personal level, that they need time away from that. I know that's a slippery slope, and I know that most managers don't want to lead with that. But being an empathetic leader, like really trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, leading with the empathy, not the WTF face, like what are you doing?
As
And
long as you're not actually asking about anything health or mental health related, like
sure,
directly.
I get
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying, right? And let me clarify, because that was probably it was
Just
poorly
for
worded.
liability purposes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
No, okay. So in the past, I've dealt with an employee who I strongly suspected was dealing with a substance abuse issue. Um, and they were displaying some very strong signs and warning signals of some severe mental trauma, or I don't even know what to put, some mental health issues. Like it was very evident it was like ticking a lot of boxes, right, for the
Mhm.
workplace. And what I led with, and then of course I got it wasn't just me. Oh, I got a team together of human resources. They were a great uh, uh, partner in this to say, hey, here's some avenues. Here's the way you should direct the conversation. We'll be in there, but this person better than us. You'll lead it. We'll be in there for support. The way I led it was, hey, you know, I presented what was going on, what the signs were. Here's what we're seeing from your coworkers. Here's what I've directly observed. And these are signs of maybe not everything's okay. And that's exactly how I said it. Here are some resources that both your union helps you with. Here are some resources that the place of our company, we also, provide free of charge. If you need some help, or if you feel like you're struggling in a certain area, and these are the exact words I said, if you feel like you're struggling in a certain area, here are some resources that you can take advantage of. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to tell anyone here, but here are those resources. And those resources just happen to be, and what am I trying to say? Psychologists. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There was a resource for them to reach out to somebody to talk to a psychologist. There was some substance abuse professionals that they could talk to, and without saying it, just giving them this as a resource, saying like this is what we've seen signs that are leading to maybe you're not doing so good, or maybe you're not doing okay. We just want to check in. Are you all right? Is there anything that we could do to support you here? Right. So you're saying it without saying it. And maybe I don't know. I was saying maybe we should cut this from the episode because it might have gotten too personal.
Well, you
But
just
want
to
if
be
it was
careful
vague
with
enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're vague enough. I don't think, obviously it won't stand out unless that
No.
person is listening, but you
Oh.
just, as a caveat to that, I guess it's just being careful with
Mhm.
the implication.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
So,
And to be 100% honest, like it's more that this has happened like 3 times in the course of my career. So these are kind of 3 different instances where this has been the case.
well, a lot of that type of, especially a serious conversation like that, is also your level of comfort with that person and that
Very true.
person's level of comfort with you.
Very true. Very true. So in all 3 cases, like there were, I mean, it was up and down, but I really do think that, I mean, I wasn't sued for any of them, so I'm guessing that the message was delivered that I really
Mhm.
did care about that person. I really did want them to be well. I wanted them to be at their best, not only for what they were contributing to the institution that we worked at, but as a person. I I put my money where my mouth is, man. I really care about these people. I want them to thrive. I don't want to see anybody go through a tough time. That's not fun. So I think where we were going with that before, it kind of got derailed to the personal stuff, was building a culture of teach versus discipline. I'm not here to pop you over the head every time you make a mistake. I'm not here to constantly be calling people out and throwing them under the bus. I'm here to build a culture of positivity and build a culture of it's okay to mess up, but when you mess up, take accountability for that and learn from it. Let those be learning situations, and do your best to improve from them. That's all I can do, and that's all I could expect the team to do.
Yeah, and just through I mean, you talk about learned experience. I mean, I don't know. I've been in situations where, you work and you work and you know that there are cultural issues and things where you think to yourself, it's like, if I could just get to a position to make a change or a difference here, like everything will be golden, and like I don't even want to say the danger in yourself, but I mean, I guess in a way is when, because I've done it. Like I've
Mhm.
been in situations where I lie to myself thinking all I need to do is get that next promotion, that next level of responsibility to really make a difference. But you get there and there's always a roadblock. And I got absolutely burned out trying to focus on being a lower, I don't even want to say lower level leader, but lower level managerial authority, I guess, with a high leadership drive and trying to make a difference to where it's like I had support, but not the right support, right? So I had support from everybody that worked with me or that reported to me, but sometimes it's like you have people in positions that really make the decisions where for them it's not an important issue, or it's like, well, my numbers are good, so who cares? And I would get invested in trying to do it, and eventually you get to a point to where you realize, like, no matter what I do, nothing's going to change, right? So it's not going to get better, and it just, I don't know, man. You get burned out, and I had one situation where it's like I gave everything I had, like, to this company for years, and I kept climbing the ladder, and eventually hit a breaking point where, I was somebody that worked nights and weekends and went above and
Mm.
beyond and did, duties above my normal responsibilities. And I just got to a point to where I got, disengaged and kind of reverted back to, well, not back. I never did the bare minimum, but I reverted to doing the
Yeah.
bare minimum. And it was something that was completely foreign to me, but I was just exhausted, and I lost faith in the people that I was relying on to help push things, that have a voice and a face in the company, that would say one thing and then not follow through with it. So there's a danger for yourself of burning out and becoming part of that disengaged group of employees as a result of culture.
So I want to kind of build off that and then talk to the leaders in the room. So I want to start with signs. What are some of the signs, if you looking back at it retroactively, what are some of the signs in yourself that you've seen that coming on? And then I want to talk about, as a leader, what are some signs to look out for that's going on in the group with your team?
Signs to look out for, that what is going on, that the culture isn't working, or that
Right.
you
Both
as a
with you,
person.
both. Let's start with you as a person. What were some of the signs that you could retroactively look back on to maybe, I don't know, either bring awareness to the situation for other leaders in the room who maybe caught in something that you were like in a similar situation, and then we can go on to staff.
I think, well, so what I mentioned with the sign of
Hmm.
progressing and thinking that you can make a difference with the people above you, like, they are going to be who they're going to be. And my biggest mistake was thinking that I could continue to rise the ranks and get into a position of authority to where I could influence things or change things. And I think looking back, I should have just focused on what I could actually control, and which I mean, I did, but I also focused on the stuff that was out of my control, and that's the stuff that really wore me down. And I think if I could go back, I would not put so much effort and emphasis and just so much of myself into trying to change the things I had no control over, and just
Gotcha.
focusing on my group and having my team, that we all, had our thing and we worked together, and trying to take that and replicate it, I guess, on a larger scale, company wide, was too much of an effort for one person, especially when you're not in a
Mhm.
position to actually make
Got
it
it.
happen.
As a leader, as and to the leaders who are listening, what are some of the signs that I have a couple that I could throw out there, but what are some of the signs to look for that maybe you're not aware of right away, but these are maybe red flags that to look out for, like, hey, maybe the culture isn't what I thought it was. For me, it's people like that are disengaged, people that your heavy hitters. We talked about heavy hitters before, the ones who
Mhm.
all of a sudden aren't aren't working. They don't want to be here anymore. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought this was great, right? Those are two of the biggest signs for me. What are some of the things that leaders can look out for to keep an accurate temperature on the culture?
I think the biggest thing with culture is, we talked about it
Mhm.
before, is intervening on poor conduct and having conversations that need to be had and not letting things go, treating everybody equally and the same, because when you have preferential treatment, it erodes trust. It's acknowledging people and just engaging and thanking people for what they're doing. It's all things that continue to build that strength. And when those aren't occurring, or you allow gossip to occur, or people, don't show up like you mentioned, and then not doing anything about it, or saying something and then turning around and doing the complete opposite to where people see that. And I think you need to, when you say something, do what you say you're going to do and be consistent. Like for you yourself, I think always practice what you preach. Do what you say, hold yourself to, a standard, and hold everybody else to that same standard. Like everybody knows where you sit, how you engage, everything else. And a huge red flag is when you observe others in the organization that are doing the opposite. So when you have other leaders that are on your level or above you, watch out for it. Because if you have other leaders on your level that are getting away with things like that, nothing's going to change, because they aren't being held accountable by the people above them. And a lot of times those are also the people above you. And like I mentioned before, when they don't change, your efforts and everything else are fruitless.
So sort of to wrap things up, consistency, it's funny how that word keeps coming up throughout a lot of these conversations that we have in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, well, networking, consistency is huge, and that doesn't just mean consistently showing up every day. It's consistently showing up with an action, with plans. I also, man, I'm going to say it again, but I really like that idea of during those check-in meetings to promote team engagement by the kudos and thank yous and the shout outs to everybody in the room. Having the tough conversations, these are all just points of trying to promote culture, not being afraid of them. Don't shy away from them. They're uncomfortable and they suck, but the return on investment on them is huge,
Yeah. And I mean, the biggest thing is modeling culture and not defining it, because you can say all you want, but if you aren't doing it, who gives a shit what you say,
Yeah, it goes out the window pretty quick, right?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, and the other thing is,
yes,
it's usually not one big thing that happens. It's like, oh, this culture's shot. It's little things. It's allowing little things to continue to build up to where it becomes the norm or the unwritten rule, and just letting people slide further and further. And just, it's very hard to come back from a toxic environment that has been created.
Yeah, it is. But I guess, to go back to where you said it doesn't happen, it doesn't collapse overnight all the time, right? Remain vigilant, stay on top of these things, stay engaged. And I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to the listeners, I'm talking to myself right now, because it is something that you have to actively work on. It's something that, I just admitted it earlier. We were doing the kudos and thank yous during our meetings. And then right when you had said that, I'm like, oh, we do that. And then I thought in my head, right, I was like, oh shit, we haven't done that in a while. I got to get back to that. Right. So as someone talking to myself right now, stay engaged, stay vigilant, stay on top of it, man. Yeah, that's the best path forward.
No, I agree. And damn it, there was something that we mentioned before that I wanted to come back and re-emphasize, just because it is so valuable when it comes to culture, and it escaped me because I laughed at your forgotten kudos.
I thought it was a joke that you were all of a sudden going to say that you laughed at and shouldn't have. I was like, my jokes are always hitting. You know what I'm saying? I bet 1,000 when it comes to jokes.
No, you have good jokes. Oh, I know what it was.
Nice.
Because we talked about it before, and the key to everything is not getting lost in the numbers and looking strictly at performance. The key to culture is all in behavior modeling and correcting bad behaviors, because get the behaviors right, everybody on the same page, like we mentioned before, performance will follow. When you focus on performance as the end all be all, at the end of the day, when you're busting your ass, and doing what you need to do, and somebody else is treating people like shit, but they're hitting their numbers and they continue to get raises and promotions, it's like you look over, it's like, okay, well, why am I doing things the right way? So
Yeah, excellent point. So in closing, if you have any piece of feedback, anything we've said in this episode, anything we've said in previous episodes, please feel welcome to comment, read feedback. We love feedback. Provide it all, good, bad, or indifferent.
And the last point is culture is what you allow. Until next time, leading ain't easy.
But you don't have to do it alone.
Thanks for tuning in to Leading Ain't Easy. If something in today's episode resonated, please do us a favor and share it with someone else who leads or aspires to lead. Because honestly, none of us have this figured out, but we can all get better together. If you're a leader or professional feeling quietly stuck in your career, visit reframerise.com. It's a career and leadership coaching firm where I work with veterans and other high achievers to realign their work and lead with purpose. Again, that's reframerise.com. And if you're looking for leadership tools, training, or support for your transportation department, check out Bus Pro Network, where Erny helps school transportation leaders across California build safer, stronger teams. Please subscribe wherever you listen, leave a review, and let us know what topics you'd like us to tackle in the future. And remember, leading ain't easy, but you don't have to do it alone.